Hello and welcome back to my channel, Checks, Captures, Threats. Today's episode 54 of the Chess Guide, will be going over simplifying. So, in today's episode we're going to be going over what simplifying is, how we can use it, and we've got some examples here of how to use it, even if you're just a pawn up or if you're a piece up, vice versa. So, in all of these positions are going to come from an opening. Some might be a bit further into the opening, even into the middle game. Some might be at the start like this. So we're just going to be going over it. Now, let's start. What is simplifying? So, simplifying is, if you think of it in like a maths term, you're trying to, if it's like an equation, you're trying to simplify it to make it smaller or to make it clearer. Now, that's quite similar here with chess. What we're trying to do here is when we simplify things, we would like to exchange pieces like trading, and that's simplifying down the board. So obviously every time you capture a piece, that's two less pieces on the board. So you keep doing that and you keep going with that, and slowly the board will keep, opening up, simplifying down to this sort of, open game. Whether you're a piece up, you might always do it. If we remember on episode 50, our first example game we went over how Bobby Fischer here swapped everything off. He swapped queens, he swapped rooks, he swapped knights and bishops here, and he was simplifying the game down. Now, yes, he had an unlucky blunder, but in the long run, it was a good idea. He was actually at least even against Boris Spassky, but he just couldn't, get that last move that he in the end blundered, but it was unlucky. So, anyway, we're going to go over this now. We've got 4 examples of how we can use simplifying. Now, just a quick, easy way, as we've said here. So with simplifying, you could do it even if you're even and you just don't like the position that they've got. Now, in a position like this, I would not do it. But simplifying it is simple as this. You just trade pieces. Now here, this is when I say do not simplify, because we're kind of giving them that tempo again. We're kind of giving them their knight come out, now their bishop's out and everything. So in this position, I say do not simplify here. But if you want to open it up, maybe you wanted to get rid of that bishop so you can now start a pawn attack, something like that. You might want to now get your queen out, and you just didn't like that bishop in general, but realistically you should, because this is our bad bishop compared to this good bishop. But there is that. So, hopefully you understand now what simplifying is. In this example here, this has come from the Nimzo Indian. Again, it's very simple, this second one here. We're just going to go over what, hopefully, you just understand what it means as a basis. Obviously, we're 4 moves in, actually. We're not, winning by any means anyone here, but obviously, as we do in the Nimzo Indian here, we capture, and then they capture back now. This is simplifying again, obviously. Trading pieces, it's kind of, you could say it's the same thing. The only difference here is obviously we're trying to do it to open up the board. Now, in this position, I'd say it's quite good, especially as we're even on material, because they've now double pawned. Now, this is going to cause absolute mayhem for white. He's got to try and get his pieces around here. He's going to be stuck, from all of these sort of squares. So he's going to have a very difficult time with that. So here it is. Now, also, there's a few things with this. So when you want to simplify, most of the time, simplifying is when you're up in material. Now, you want to always convert that advantage by, if you're a bishop up, let's think like this. If you're a bishop up and you trade all the pieces down, you're going to still be a bishop up and you're a bishop at the end. Now, obviously, you'd want to keep a few pawns, otherwise it's going to be a draw if you just have a bishop. So that's why if you're a rook up, for example, you would really want to swap absolutely everything off the board, so it just ends up to be a rook and a king. So we could do that, and it could be as open as as closed as positions like this to start simplifying, because maybe not right at the start of the game we want to do it, but if we could do it as, sometimes we just simplify a bit now, play a few moves, simplify again, and then keep doing that. Slowly you'll keep chipping pieces off the board, so you can slowly have that open game. Now, if you like a closed game, and you like loads of pieces on the board, and you like that tactical mindset, I would keep, do not simplify. I would say simplify when necessary. So, when you think you're going to win something from it, whether it's like a double pawn, whether it's, blocking in a bishop, for example, as both these bishops are quite blocked in, forcing it to only there. So, you could do that. Now, that's those 2 examples just to show what it is. Now here, This is from the London system for white. Now we're actually up a pawn here, as we see this pawn in the middle. Now he's tried to bring his knight here. What can we do? Now we're a pawn up. Let's simplify it as much as we can off the board. So in positions like this, we can also win another pawn in a second. So we can actually probably do that now, where you could just capture here, check, obviously win that pawn. And then when it moves, we can play moves like this. You know, we can try and simplify. If it does work, we could do this. Now, as black do not play this, it looks like you're already protected there, but you will sacrifice, as you see this a lot. They try to block off your protecting thing, but now this is 5 points up, mating one or winning a knight. You're going to win there. So instead, when you get a move like this, you know, they're going to struggle to try and find anything. They might win their pawn back, but, you know, we can play moves like this, put pressure on this, where they're going to either have to trade or move. You know, they might now play something like this. We can just trade stuff off the board, and we're still that pawn up. You know, we can even trade pawns here. You know, we could push this pawn up. You know, the best move for black is to take, so we could do stuff like this. And just looking at the position, you know, it doesn't look much, but we're up, obviously, and we're up by a pawn. If we can continue that, then it's fine. I mean, they're saying moves like this. I mean, we could still cause... Again, if you're up a material, swap queens. That's a very good thing as well. Simplifying queens off the board is very good, because queens obviously could do anything, really. That can always be a matter of things. So sometimes you might have to, you know, trade it off. Sometimes you might even do stuff where you might sacrifice a rook and a bishop for the queen. You know, it's stuff like that. So we could try that and everything there. Hopefully, now understanding what simplifying is. Now here, I'm going to give you a few seconds actually, because there is a move here for black to win a piece here. So I'll give you a few seconds. You can pause the video if you want. So, okay. Hopefully you saw the move bishop to a6. This is where we can play, you know, obviously something called a skewer. Also, you could say here, could be a fork in a way, as you're forking two pieces, but it's just going to be a skewer, because as soon as this queen moves, you're going to obviously win the rook. So, why am I showing you this? Now, obviously, they're going to capture back. Obviously, they do not capture back with the king. That's just mate in one. So, they have to capture back with the queen. And now, what we can see here is we just simplify the board. You know, we'll play a move like this. So, what this does is this is going to force this bishop to move. So, obviously, what we can do is to try and simplify. Now, what I'm trying to say here is, look, we're trying to attack them. Obviously, they know that we're going to try and trade off as many pieces as possible. So, they're going to move away. They can't move here, can't move there, here, or h6. All of these squares are now gone. So, they have to go to c1. So, this now makes them back to their original square. And they just, look at this. They're trapped in this little box here. They've got nothing. And we're 3.5 points up as black here. So we can easily, you know, win this game. It's very easy to convert this win. You know, all you got to do is just play, you know, sometimes you'll play silly moves. If you saw in the rapid increase from not the last round, but game 16, where we had quite a weird endgame to that, where we was a piece up in the opening. And you saw how we were simplifying stuff off the board, left, right, centre. You know, we swapped knights, we swapped rooks, we swapped bishops in the end. And in the end, we was able to get that win because it was just pawns and like a rook left on the board. So, hopefully, you understand how what simplifying is. That's going to be the end of the video. So, we're going to be... That should be it, because that's part of the trading thing. So, hopefully you liked Kasparov's Immortal game as well on the chess guide. That was last episode. And hopefully you saw the rapid increase that last game. But anyway, tomorrow we've got a few good things going on. Another game, obviously, game 18 that'll be. And we'll also have something else for the chess guide. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. So thank you and bye-bye.